welcome, greetings, hello. Condition of Culture, episode, whatever number you clicked on. That's the episode that you're watching now. I want to talk about something interesting, something that's close to all of your hearts. Drugs, medical science, and violence, like school shootings and psychopathy. Is it psychopathy? Psychopathy. Like, they once said the drugs don't work, but the drugs are always the solution. Illegal drugs and legal drugs. Drugs promoted by the government and drugs condemned by the government. You know, you're not confident? Snort some cocaine. Feeling a bit sad about your childhood trauma? Inject some heroin. Got a headache? Take some paracetamol. If you have some sort of anxiety problem, take one of the countless drugs that your local drug pusher will give to you. You know, the way I view doctors, and this opinion on doctors hasn't changed actually for a very long time. I've kind of felt this way since probably my late teenage years, to be honest with you, when I sort of figured it all out. And it hasn't changed that much. I mean, my opinions have changed on many different things over the years, you know, whether it's been political opinions or social opinions or all kinds of things. You know, at one point I thought the movie Crash, not the David Cronenberg one where they have sex with cars, but, you know, the one that's like, racism's bad. At one point I thought, oh, that's really good. And then I realized it's not very good. It's just complete corny toss. You know, I was also once I was going to join the Communist Party until I got high one night and thought things through for a few seconds. I was like, communism doesn't work. It's whack. You know, you could change your opinion, you know, but when it comes to doctors and what I think they are, it hasn't changed much. I'm talking about GPs here, general practitioners. It might be different in your country or how you define what they are, but I just think they are state-funded drug peddlers, essentially, because every problem you have, the solution is always drugs. For all the years that I had back problems, and I figured I need physiotherapy, I was never given physiotherapy. I was given drugs, not even good drugs, not like tramadol or anything fun. No. Prescription ibuprofen. That's right, you get ibuprofen prescription. Amazing, isn't it? Because it was 400 milligrams. They're like, oh, you need 400 milligrams, even though you can buy 200 milligram ibuprofen at the time and just take 2 of them. But for this, they needed to put their name on a bit of paper to feel some sort of superiority. You know, I think, can I just take 2 of these? No, take 1 of these. Here's your drugs. Every problem has drugs thrown at it, or something similar. I mean, can you call a vaccine a drug? Well, you inject it into your arm, don't you? That's kind of druggy. That's kind of druggy behavior. Is there anything else you inject to yourself except vaccines and heroin? Well, some people inject speed, but they're crazy. Don't inject speed. Ooh, terrible for the skin. But they are state-sponsored drug peddlers, no matter what the problem was. During this entire episode, I'm going to be dropping a lot of anecdotes about my experiences to give you a better understanding of where I'm coming from. Because this isn't all just about me regurgitating talking points or doing some research. This is stuff I've lived through too. That's formed my opinion. And the more evidence, and well, I keep finding evidence to back up the way I feel and the way I think about it. You know, first anecdote I'll give you to where this is sort of what got me on the path to thinking of doctors as state-funded drug peddlers. Back in the early 2000s, okay, when I was a very young man with a fine chiseled jaw, okay, and the stamina of an ox, which I still have, by the way. Don't know why I threw that in. I was seeing this girl, and who was my girlfriend, and you know, I wasn't just seeing her, I wasn't just waiting at the window looking at her. You know, we were in a relationship, And I got impetigo. Impetigo. Ooh. Right? Very contagious impetigo. It was on my cheeks. It was so contagious, in fact. I remember sort of resting one day with my head like that. And if you're not watching, with my head sort of rested on the top of my chest. And then lo and behold, look down, it had spread to that spot there. Really super contagious, man. Ooh. Right, so I went to the doctor. They gave me antibiotics. I was like, okay, this will get rid of it. Okay, because started off with cream. The cream didn't do shit. Antibiotics. So I took the antibiotics. The impetigo went away. Then I'm with my girlfriend one day, and she was giving me hand assistance in the lower regions, shall we say. And she noticed a bit of friction. Something was getting in the way. A lump. Ooh, a very big lump on the tip of my penis, like that big. Now, I didn't know you can't get penis cancer, but obviously, me being Mr. Super Paranoid, my first thought was, I'm going to go to the doctor and they're going to chop my penis off. That's it. This is the end. This is the end of all fun for me. Turns out it was a cyst. And the doctor said to me, oh, you've developed a cyst on the end of your penis. I was like, oh dear, that's not cool. How do we get rid of this cyst? Surgery? No. Antibiotics. Well, what caused the cyst? The last antibiotics. What a beautiful scam, I thought. You know, because in those days I was scammy myself. I was always running some sort of hustle. You know, selling weed sprayed with glue, this kind of thing. So I knew how to scam myself. And I thought, so, you gave me antibiotics to get rid of one thing, and those antibiotics caused a new thing, so you could sell me more antibiotics to get rid of the new thing. I said, how fascinating. And the more times I went to the doctor over problems, the more times they just threw drugs at me and said, oh, the drugs will solve it all. Just take the drugs. Physiotherapy for my back? No. You don't want to get rid of the pain. You just want to suppress it, like a heroin addict. In more recent times, science, and in particular medical-based science, because the science around COVID is, it has its roots in medical science. It's been taking an absolute beating. Scientists are now sort of looked upon, and quite rightly so, I'd say, as a sort of weird shaman and soothsayers and doom-mongers that come down from their tower and say, oh, I saw an eagle in the sky holding the skull of a dead cat. This is bad. We need to lock down the entire city for 5 months. Like, holy shit. But, like, is it only now we're looking upon them with these new eyes because of what's happened? And is it just recently that they become absolute lunatic quacks? Or have they just always been like that? I think we've placed way too much importance on science as a concept, because science is a process. And it's like, well, why we follow the science? Yeah. Until the science leads you somewhere where you don't like, or where your funding doesn't like, you know, or the people that you cozy up to. If it takes you to a place that they don't like, then the science sort of gets ignored. And this is a consistent thing that happens. Because when it comes to problem solving, science doesn't seem to solve so many problems. As, well, I'd argue that it solves and creates an equal amount of problems. Because one week, one group is saying, oh, wow, we've been doing this research and we've discovered that, you know, I don't know, salmon makes your eyes pop out your head. And the other guys are going, well, we think that unless you eat salmon, you'll die from COVID-19. It's a problem. What are the solutions to many of the big problems? Knife crime, for instance. When it comes to knife crime, one side says it's because of this thing, and the other side says it's because of the other thing. I'll give you two examples. So let's say more left-leaning people will say, oh, it's because you closed down all the youth centres. That's why all the kids are out stabbing each other. And the right will say, well, it's because you stopped stop and frisk. And that's why all the youths are killing each other, because they're just a bit too bold now. And if you look at the data, which I'm sure they do, but only the data they want to look at, you do see correlation between both. Now, correlation does not always prove causation, but there is evidence to support that maybe they're both right because these are contributing factors. But the fact is they'll never agree on it, and thus we have the knife and gun crime cycle that continuously goes on in the UK for the last 20 years or so, where nothing gets solved. They just rehash the new versions of old ideas, like last year when they reintroduced amnesty bins, because I remember the two big gun and knife amnesties in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and they definitely worked, didn't they? Brilliant. And the thing is about drugs and violent crime and solving problems is it doesn't seem to work. In fact, I would say it causes more problems, because these days they are pumping kids full of more drugs than we've ever pumped kids full of before. A great example is Ritalin. I mean, what does Ritalin do? People take Ritalin for fun. Now, I discovered this last year when I was in Vietnam, hanging out with a couple of Americans. And one of them said, we went back to this guy's pad. I just said pad, didn't I? We go to this guy's pad. Went to this guy's flat to drink and be merry, because he moved into a very nice flat and wanted to see us. And the American guy said, I'm going to pop to the pharmacy and get some Ritalin. And basically started consuming Ritalin like cocaine. He crushed it up and had rails lined up in the bathroom saying, you want to have one? I was like, I'm not snorting Ritalin. I mean, I've snorted worse, but Jesus Christ, you got to say no, haven't you? Sometimes you just got to say no. Because Ritalin is a drug. Of course, you can take it for fun. You just snort it. Some kid has some sort of hyperactivity problem. Instead of saying, what's his diet? What time does he go to bed? How much sleep does he get? Does he have electronic devices on before he goes to sleep? Does he go outside? Does he run around? Does he do enough exercise? All these are contributing factors. Do you know why? Because these have been contributing factors to my fucking problems, which we'll get into. But no, they just go, yeah, he's a weirdo, so we just need to put some weirdo biscuits in his face. And our choice of weirdo biscuits are Ritalin. How much is that? Good. And then the doctor says, yeah, we sold some more Ritalin today, boys. Please don't kill my family. Pumping kids full of drugs is bad. Because, as we know, even though most recreational drugs are illegal, there is kind of a code amongst, I don't know, maybe like 80% of people selling drugs not to sell drugs to kids. It's kind of it's kind of an unwritten rule. Don't sell drugs to kids. I mean, there are drug dealers out there. I mean, I've known drug dealers who give hard drugs to their own kids. Just give it to them. Because they're fucked. They're absolutely fucked. But there are a lot of people who are saying, no, you don't be selling crack to a 14-year-old, please. Don't do that. It'll get you in a lot of trouble. That's more than a leg-breakable offence. I think that's a murder. I think, murder. I think you get murdered for that kind of thing in a lot of places. Don't give drugs to the kids. Whereas the doctor's saying, yeah, just give them drugs. Give them all the fucking drugs we got. We got loads of drugs. What do you want? Uppers, downers, lefters, righters, inside outers. I got them all. The pharmacy is loaded with drugs for your kids. They just go to drugs. Especially in an age now where we have rampant increases in anxiety disorders and depression, all caused, well, I don't know, not all caused, but with a majority of the problem and the causation comes from technology. It's the technology they hold in their hands, the technology they use to communicate, the technology behind the food they consume, the technology that keeps them inside instead of being outside. The technology that has changed how they interact with the world, has changed how their brains develop from a young age. And what do? They give them drugs. They've been given drugs out for a long time, but because more people have more problems, there's more drugs. I mean, look what happened with fentanyl. Some wise ass said, hey, do you know what would be a really good idea for people with chronic pain? What's that? Something that's like 1,000,000 times stronger than heroin? Oh yeah, that sounds like a brilliant idea. Can't see any problems happening. Do you think something that's like 80 times more addictive than heroin, do you think that's going to cause any problems? Nah, there's no research or data that would suggest so, apart from the crumbling infrastructure of inner cities. And all the people in jail. Nah, it'd be fine. But they have given drugs to people who are feeling poorly in the brain for a very long time. My first experience, well, first of all, I had a friend who was on Prozac. And it did make him go a bit weird. I can't give really any examples. It's just the vibe. It was the vibe. It just made him a bit weird. And then I started hearing more about people who've been taking Prozac, people who developed like weird OCD issues. I heard about someone's friend who had to turn the light on 3 times all the time. So walk in the room and go 1, 2, 3. I mean, not a major problem, I suppose. It's not the same as going on a psychotic, homicidal rampage, but a bit annoying for everybody involved, including the person who it happened to themselves. Now later on, I got into I was seeing a girl. We weren't really in a relationship, but as I said, we were doing things with each other. It wasn't like, again, I was watching her out of a window and just seeing her. And her and a close friend of mine had both been prescribed Imiprin. I can't go into too many details about what Imiprin is, but you can look it up. Imiprin just dealt with sort of, sad kids. Oh, I'm depressed. I've got problems. Have some Imiprin. Now, being around those two, their brains were warped by Imiprin. Like, it just made their thinking and their decision-making a bit bizarre. And one of the interesting things we discovered about Imiprin is that if you take quite a lot of it, it really fucks you up. So we started taking that recreationally for fun. One such incident, we sort of discovered that it made you trip out and have like these psychoactive trips that weren't exactly fun, but were interesting. And it also, if you took my girlfriend, well, the girl I was seeing in particular, when she'd take it, too many of them, you'd have to remind her to breathe, which was quite interesting. Now, I got on the Imiprin train, and I'd have like these psychoactive trips. I was thinking, you take about 5 to 10 and drink, and especially if you drink on them, and you just see horrible things. Like I saw my nightmares come real, like spiders crawling up the walls, big spiders on my chest, and worms coming out of people's faces, lightning bolt type worms coming out the sky, all culminating me having a proper psychoactive experience where I had a conversation with someone in a tent at this party, someone who wasn't even there, and someone I'm not even friends with. But apparently they came in and we had a full-blown conversation. A boring one too. After taking that, I was like, why are they giving everyone... Why, because I've got 2 friends and they've both been given Imiprin. What's this Imiprin shit all about? But what really turned me around was something called Siroxat, which is another... all these stories involve girlfriends. So I had a girlfriend who got prescribed Siroxat because she too had, boohoo poorly brain. That was the actual doctor's definition. And I remember when she first started taking it, we weren't with each other at the time, but she was really worried because when you first start taking Siroxat, it alters your serotonin. So it does something to your serotonin. Okay. Like rebalances it, or I'm not going to go for the technical term. I'm saying it just fucks shit up. That's the way I describe it. And her father called me up and said she wants you here because she's really scared. Going, this drug she's been given is the first few days going to be quite rough, and she wants you here. He came and picked me up, and I just sat there with her and held her hand for and stroked her head for a very, I don't know, for days. I'm not even sure. Okay, this is when I was a good person. She turned me into a bad person in the end anyway. Well, the drugs did, man. Later. And I remember just pulling out the instructions and, the list of ingredients and also the side effects. And it was a leaflet like this big, but it was concertinaed like a map. And then when you open it up, it became the size of a broadsheet newspaper. And the list of potential side effects was fucking terrifying. I'd never seen anything like it. It was everything from psychotic episodes to death to, I don't know, like lightning shooting out your nose. It was mental. I was like, can you really be sad enough to go through this shit? Now, she was on it over a long time, and it warped her brain. What followed on from there just spiraled into incidences of just vitriol and violence. And not only did it affect, it obviously affected her because she was taking it, but how she behaved affected me and didn't make me a very nice person either. It was very traumatic and affected a lot of people around us. It was devastating. But there was a few, choice incidences where she'd just black out and not know what the fuck was going on. Like trying to stub a cigarette out in my eye, throwing a bottle at my head, and then having just these episodes of things that just didn't happen. Like I remember getting into a huge argument which ended up in mild brawling because she said she'd just had a phone conversation with, I can't remember, it was like a cousin or someone, and just talking a load of lies about something. And I was like, look, you didn't call anyone. You didn't make that phone call. And she went absolutely mad. I just made that phone call. You saw me make that fucking phone call. Just going absolutely off on one. Saying, and why are you humiliating me and calling me a liar? And degrading me in front, because it was in front of some people too. And I was going, and no one backed me up because they were terrified. I was like, did she make a phone call? Like, I'm staying out of it. I was like, you did not make a phone call. And she would have lots of incidences like that. It just warped her brain. I don't want to go into the rest of the details about what happened afterwards, but she basically, later on in life, she doesn't think it's the Ciroxan. She thought she was an alcoholic, but she wasn't. She didn't have any money. I don't know where this alcohol came from. She did have a lot of Ciroxan. And again, sometimes she'd take the Ciroxan, to take more of it, and mix it up with stuff to send it proper into Lucasville. For the most part, it really warped her brain. And a few years later, a friend of mine, he had a go, and we got talking one night. This is where we weren't so friendly, we were more acquainted. But I remember having a discussion with him, talking, and just got onto Ciroxan. His girlfriend had been on Ciroxan. And then we suddenly were trading war stories of this shit and what it did and all these incidents. And it was like, oh my God. It was like the same fucking story. Same sort of instances, her just going off on one, being fucking crazy. It did more harm than good. I don't know how they went from her saying that she has, these depressive episodes and anxiety and panic attacks to going Ciroxan, because there should have been something before that, and there wasn't. Other kinds of solutions. They just pumped in the brain, and after that, everything that me, her, and our family members and friends went through because of it, I just became like, fuck them, and fuck GlaxoSmithKline, which is the company that manufactures them. Just think of Pfizer, equally evil. Because, you know, I mean, that's the thing about Pfizer as well. Just want to put that out there. You know, they do make the vaccine. What else does Pfizer make? Oh, yeah, Xanax. Now, you know, I had a bit of a Xanax problem for a while in Thailand. Very nice, very addictive. Well, it was quite hard to get off Xanax, and it can really fuck you up. Any sort of any sort of benzodiazepine type medication is very destructive, highly addictive, and can really, really mess you up when you quit taking it. I was lucky because I didn't have any long-term effects from it. Well, not that I know of. But, you know, Pfizer make that. Just remember that kind of thing. These companies make a lot of poisons that shouldn't really be around. And, you know, so for the longest time I've just looked at pharmaceutical companies. I'm not one of these big pharmas, bro, you know. Like, oh, big pharma, well, they're taking all the mung beans away because they don't want people to be cured of cancer. I'm not one of them, okay? But I do see things how they are, that they just make a hell of a lot of horrible drugs that fuck people up. And these drugs are paid for often by the state or by insurance companies if you're in countries like in America. Bought by the bucket load because the trust in them is so big. And the trust that you have in your doctor is so big that, oh, they're not going to fuck us up. When well and truly, I think a lot of the time, they're giving us stuff and they don't really know what the fuck they're giving us. They can't know everything about everything. You have to know. You know, my experience of Seroxat would not be the same as the experience of a doctor prescribing Seroxat to someone. They probably have no clue about what it's like to be on fucking Seroxat or have to live with someone who's on Seroxat. No clue. So maybe my recommendation about Seroxat would be better than theirs because of experience. You know, it's like the historian versus the person who actually fought in the war. Who's going to give you a better account of what went down? Now, it sort of leads me to the point I've always thought about gun crime in America. Because a lot of countries have a lot of guns. Thailand's got a lot of guns. You know, Canada's got a lot of guns. Brazil's got a lot of guns. And if you count, you know, there's a lot of shootings, street shootings in America. But obviously America has this other unique problem. Not that street gang violence is a uniquely American problem. It just seems like it is. It's mass shootings. And quite often school shootings done by young people. And again, leading back to the solutions that they try to come up with knife and gun crime in the UK, they have a similar problem in the USA where they just go, ban guns. Well, they did that in the UK, and then gun violence doubled. So that doesn't actually work. We are proof in it, but no one wants to go to America and go, yeah, that didn't work. You know. We sort of just ignore the fact that after we banned guns, loads of kids started shooting each other. I mean, that's what happened. Go look at it. The Summer of Pain was in 2001. I like to refer to the Summer of Pain, 2001, 2002, or 2002, 2003, where the murder rate doubled. It doubled. It went from an average of like 500-600 to over 1,000 murders a year. And guns had long been banned. And it makes you think, you know, there's a lot of countries with a lot of guns, there's a lot of countries with a lot of violence, but not so many countries that have mass shootings. The UK, how many mass shootings have we had, even when we had guns? Like, there's 2 that I can think of. There's Dunblane, which got all the guns banned, and then you could say the Michael Ryan incident, because he did shoot a few people that day. Maybe you could say Raoul Moat, but that was after guns got banned. But he didn't kill that many people. But one is enough. You know, one's too many, obviously. Do I have to say obviously, like an idiot? And, you know, in Australia and New Zealand, they've only had like one mass shooting. They've thrown their toys out the pram saying, oh, ban all guns. But these mass shootings don't happen a lot. In other countries, you know, Norway, you've got Breivik, who's a unique case of lunacy. but we don't have that many of them. But well and truly, it is sort of a uniquely American thing, is mass shootings. They just have more of them, especially school shootings. Because even the school shooting in Dunblane wasn't done by a kid. It was done by a grown-ass man. Breivik was a grown-ass man and I believe he shot children. It's uniquely American. And one thing that you know about America is how they dish out drugs. They don't dish out drugs like they do in the UK. They dish out drugs all the fucking time. All the time. I mean, you've got the Betty Ford Clinic in America, which is, President Ford's wife because she was addicted to Valium. Okay? You had the First Lady of America was addicted to Valium because they were just giving Valium to everybody. It's so easy to get pharmaceutical drugs in America as compared to the UK. It's just, and the FD, what was it there? No. The CDC, like getting something, like the FDA and the CDC in America are quite similar comparatively to how relaxed they are compared to the UK. And you can, I discovered this, if you're advertising for certain supplements or anything that makes claims about things, it's very different to advertise in the UK on Google, for example, than it is in America. You can say all sorts of outlandish stuff in America, whereas in the UK, they're like, even if you say may aid weight loss, as I discovered, no, they're like, no, you can't say that. Whereas in America, we're like, we'll definitely make you thin 100%. It's called speed. Buy these tablets of speed. They're very different. America love pumping kids for the drugs. America created OxyContin and fucking fentanyl. I mean, these are terrible things. Xanax. I mean, it's great fun, but it's terrible. All of these things created in America. They're awful. Like, these have done so much damage to people. Lord and behold, this stuff is not good. And yet in America, it's like, Now, bearing that in mind, there is a little article, well, it's not a little article, that my friend, who had experience with a girlfriend who was on Suroxat, same as me, sent this article across. And I thought, well, this has got enough information in there for me to, relay and go over with you. You know what I'm saying? But it is from I have read through this. It is from a website that's very gun friendly. Okay, it's a pro-gun website, but you got to think about it. There's not many narratives that counter the anti-gun narrative in America, as we know. It's more, a lot of the people want guns, but even people that have guns in public are like, oh yeah, ban guns. Well, not mine. So you don't have many counter narratives. So where else are you going to find them? Yes, on a pro-gun website. But the data's strong, and I think it's, we can't trust everything. But I think there's enough in here to read through to sort of, again, more evidence to confirm what I've suspected for a very fucking long time. So, first of all, let me quickly wet my whistle. Wet enough. So, it starts off the history of antidepressant use in the US. This is what we're talking about, is antidepressants, essentially. Obviously, there's drugs to do with hyperactive disorders and anti-anxiety, but there's antidepressants, which is where Suroxat falls under, okay, and Imiprin, and all the bloody others, which we'll get to. To understand the rise in antidepressant use, one must first understand depression. Everyone, no matter how great their life, has periods of sadness, times when they feel down or low. This is especially true when faced with a hardship or going through things like a divorce, the loss of a job, or the death of a parent. Okay, we all have pain. This is not clinical depression. Clinical depression is a serious mental disorder that impacts how a person functions on a daily basis. Depression makes it hard to get out of bed. It makes it hard to go to work. It makes it hard to take a shower or answer the phone. It stops a person from functioning on basic levels. So, the difference to being depressed and having depression, okay? It's like the difference between being ill and really freaking ill. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, commonly referred to as the DSM-5, to be considered clinically depressed, a patient must experience 5 of the following symptoms most of the day, every day, for at least 2 weeks. What's more, these symptoms must be so severe they interfere with normal functioning. So sadness, anxiety, hopelessness, feeling worthless, feeling helpless, feeling empty, feeling guilty. Some of these are kind of hard to define. How do you feel? Empty. Okay. Can you define what feeling empty is? There's nothing inside. I don't know. Irritable, fatigue, lack of energy, loss of interest in hobbies, slow talking and moving, restlessness, trouble concentrating, abnormal sleeping patterns, and sleep can affect everything. Okay, that's when it becomes a vicious cycle. Abnormal weight changes, either eating too much or having no appetite, and thoughts of death or suicide, of course. Depression is a serious and sometimes life-threatening illness, but in the modern world, it's highly overdiagnosed. Now, does that surprise you? That doesn't surprise me. When you look at how many people say they are depressed or say they have anxiety, wearing it as like some sort of badge of honor, like in this weird victimhood culture that we've created. A study published by Psychotherapy and Psychosomatics looked at 5,639 patients in the US who were diagnosed with depression by their clinician and compared. I almost said children. Imagine that. You get prescribed drugs because your child diagnosed you. We're probably not too far away from that. And compare the symptoms to the DSM criteria for clinical depression. Of these patients, only 38.4% met the criteria, even though the majority of those 5,639 patients were prescribed depression medication. Today, with the way antidepressants are prescribed, nearly 1 in 4 Americans will meet the criteria. 1 in 4 Americans. Now, even if they're overplaying that, it would still be quite a lot. So, will meet the criteria to be diagnosed with depression within their lifetime and will be prescribed medications that interfere with how their brains function. So the rise of antidepressants. So in the 50s, the first generation of antidepressants hit the market. Introductory class of antidepressants to gain Food and Drug Administration (FDA) approval were monoamine oxidase inhibitors or oxidase inhibitors, known as MAOIs. Although highly effective, MAOIs can cause extremely high blood pressure when paired with certain foods or medications, and therefore require diet restrictions. Because of these restrictions, they're rarely used today to treat depression, except in cases where other treatments fail. By the late 50s, a new class of antidepressants became available, which is tricyclic antidepressants. It's either tricyclic or tricyclic, depends on how you like to pronounce things. Tricyclic antidepressants are also highly effective for treating depression, but are prone to side effects. Even so, this class of antidepressants remained the go-to depression treatment for years. Other drugs were tested for depression treatment, but hadn't proved more effective than tricyclic, and MAOI antidepressants, especially for severe depression. Then we fast forward to the 1980s, and America's tranquilizer dependence was becoming problematic. Quaaludes were heavily overprescribed for anxiety. And we know how much fun they are, resulting in overdose deaths, as well as increase in deaths from vehicle accidents. The Fed stepped in 1984, classified Quaaludes as a Schedule I drug, making them illegal to sell, buy, and use. Valium, or our old friend Valium. I've had many a party on Valium. A benzodiazepine prescribed for anxiety was also extremely popular and was the most prescribed medication in the US from 1969 through to 1982. The most prescribed medication was something that made you feel better in your brain. In 1978, the year the medication peaked, more than 2.3 billion pills were sold in the US, but Valium was highly addictive, which I know from experience. Like Xanax and Valium, my friends. Ooh, loved them. And I know plenty of other people who've loved them equally as much as me. Highly addictive, and it was believed that a serotonergic medication was a better option to fill the void that was left when Quaaludes were outlawed. And then in 1987, Prozac, the first SSRI, was released for depression. Along with it came the idea that depression could be the underlying cause of anxiety. No, that's anxiety is very heavily influenced by fight or flight responses. And I know this from experience. Okay, I know what triggers it, and I know how to calm it down. And how did I figure that out? Did my doctor help me? Did a clinical psychologist help me? No. Research of myself. I helped myself. Okay? Not saying I'm brilliant or anything. It's just that's what took to get it under control. Not help from medical practitioners. The idea took off, as did the sales of Prozac, and within a few years, it overtook the antidepressant market. Soon the SSRIs followed. Along with these SSRIs came direct-to-consumer advertising, which became legal in 1985. By the mid-1990s, the FDA regulations became looser, and direct-to-consumer ads exploded into the market. Prozac and other medications showed Americans through glossy advertisements that unhappiness, stress, and anxiety be treated with a pill. You see what I'm saying? You can advertise all kinds of shit in America. It's crazy. Instead of doctors recommending a specific medication, patients started coming in requesting a medication they saw in a magazine or on television. That's fucking wild. I could not imagine going to any doctor in the UK and asking specifically for a medication. They'd be like, what? You can't even ask for what vaccine you get. I mean, I haven't got one, but you can't even do that. It's like, I don't want that Pfizer shit, please. SSRI sales skyrocketed. By 2010, 11% of Americans over the age of 12 were prescribed an antidepressant, making it the third most prescribed medication, topped only by non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen and naproxen. Painkillers. Milder painkillers. Well, naproxen is not as mild as ibuprofen, but like, we all experience some sort of injury and pain. Like the most popular drugs for pain in the brain and pain in the pain in the body. When looked at over time, there has been a 400% increase in antidepressant use from 1988 through to 2008. SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which is, I believe Ciroxat is part of that class because it does stuff to your serotonin. A class of drugs commonly referred to as SSRIs are the most prescribed antidepressants in the United States. These second-generation antidepressants are marketed to doctors and patients as safe and effective. Of course they are. As we know, state-sponsored drug peddlers. With relatively minimal side effects, SSRIs are designated to treat mild to moderate depression as well as anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and bulimia nervosa. How do they work? Well, they increase the amount of serotonin you have in the brain. There's other drugs that do that. There are other illegal drugs that do that too, did you know? All right. A neurotransmitter that helps neurons communicate. Serotonin is associated with many different body functions, but it's best known for its influence on mood, sometimes called the happy chemical. Serotonin plays a role in a person's happiness and general feelings of well-being. Yes, there's a lot of problems with serotonin abuse, I think. Low levels of serotonin are linked to depression, although the relationship is not clear. Research has not determined if the low neurotransmitter level causes depression or if depression causes the level of serotonin to drop. It should also be noted that a large amount of serotonin, up to 90%, is produced in the gut and may be influenced by what a person eats and drinks. You don't fucking say. The relationship of gut health to the brain should not be something that is so misunderstood or just not as well known as it is, because like we even have the expression "you are what you eat." Changing my diet has had one of the biggest effects on my life, especially in here. But whatever. SSRI medication does exactly what its name says. When two neurons communicate, one releases neurotransmitters which cause the other neuron to react in a certain way, because this is constantly going on. These chemicals are always present in the brain. To keep the brain's chemical balance correct, neurons regulate the amount of neurotransmitters released by a process called reuptake, which involves the reabsorption of the chemical by a neuron. For instance, if there's a high level of serotonin, the neuron knows to release less through reuptake, keeping the level balanced. If levels of the neurotransmitter are low, the reuptake tells neurons to release more. A balancing act, if you will. SSRIs inhibit the reuptake of serotonin, causing neurons to release more of the neurotransmitter, therefore increasing the amount of the chemical found in the brain. The FDA has approved a variety of SRAs, including, are you ready for this roll call of brain fuckers? Citalopram, Celex. Right, so in brackets it's the brand name, I believe, which is Celexa. Escitalopram, otherwise known as Lexapro. Fluoxetine, Prozac. Paroxetine or paroxetine, Paxil and Pexiva. Sertraline, Zoloft. And vilazodone, which is Vibrid or Vibrid. When it comes to effectiveness, SSRIs don't appear to have an influence on those with moderate to severe depression, with virtually no improvement seen when comparing SSRI use to placebos instead of a popular drug with a high efficiency. Modern SSRIs have become popular based on an effective marketing campaign and little more. Too much of a good thing is the subheading. Serotonin syndrome. I hope you're keeping up. Sometimes serotonin levels become too high, causing serotonin syndrome, a potentially life-threatening disease. It occurs when serotonin levels in the brain increase to a toxic level, often caused by too much medication or taking two serotonin-increasing medications that use different mechanisms to increase the neurotransmitter. Along with physical symptoms of excessive nerve activity, such as dilated pupils, elevated heart rate, and high blood pressure, those with the syndrome may also experience agitation, restlessness, confusion, anxiety, disorientation, excitement. And I'm assuming that's bad excitement. Connection between SSRIs and violence. Regardless if depression is overdiagnosed, and America has a habit of overprescribing mind-altering medications. These are mind-altering medications. That's not hyperbolic. That's not an opinion. They do alter your mind. They are designed to do that. There's little doubt that SSRIs have a risk of increasing violence in patients, even in patients who have no previous history of violence or aggression before taking the medication. The risk of violent behavior, both to the individual taking the medication and those around them, is so significant it has led to the FDA mandating a black box warning on all SSRI medications. I'm assuming a black box warning is similar to a parental advisory sticker. These black box warnings are designed to provide information and draw attention to the fact that the medication has serious and life-threatening risks. As of 2004, all antidepressants in the US are labeled with this. So it says anxiety, agitation, panic attacks, insomnia, irritability, hostility, aggressiveness, impulsivity, akathisia, hypermania, and mania have been reported in adult and pediatric patients being treated with antidepressants for major depressive disorders as well as for indications both psychiatric and non-psychiatric. Furthermore, there is a growing body of scientific evidence, and hopefully these aren't those shaman soothsayer scientists, that how one reacts to SSRIs is due to how one's body metabolizes the medication, and that whether one is able to metabolize SSRIs is due primarily to genetics. Known as CYP450 enzymes, these are major enzymes involved in drug metabolism, which is the breakdown of medication in the liver or other organs so that they can be eliminated from the body once they have performed their function. If these medications are not metabolized and eliminated once they have done their work, they build up and become concentrated in the body and then act as toxins. The possibility of harmful side effects or adverse reactions increases as the toxic concentration increases. The FDA estimates that each year 2.2 million Americans are hospitalized for adverse reactions and over 100,000 of them die. Oh dear, that's not good, is it? Some people are deficient in CYP450 or have a diminished capacity to metabolize these medications, which may be a genetic issue known as pharmacogenetics. Pharmacogenetics. All right, okay. Pharmacogenetics explains why certain people taking the same medication as others have vastly different reactions. We do know that individuals with no or poorly performing CYP450 enzymes are much more likely to suffer the side effects of prescription drugs, particularly psychiatric drugs known to have side effects of depression, violence, and suicide. To compound the problem, the side effects caused by CYP450 deficiency and its subsequent failure to metabolize any one of the hundreds of medications can then be misdiagnosed as a mental illness. And thus, the patient is then prescribed more psychiatric medication in a mistaken effort to treat those initial side effects. Further complicating the problem, it is estimated that 10% of Caucasians, 7% of African Americans are CYP450 deficient. Despite the connection between CYP450 enzymes and pharmaceutical side effects, there is no mandatory genetic testing to determine whether or not one is a possessor of adequate or deficient CYP450 enzyme capacity. Of course not. You've got to sell them drugs, you fucking idiot. Some of the side effects caused by SSRIs can increase the risk of violence against others. Perhaps the most risky emotional blunting or detachment has been linked to SSRI use, and many people who've taken the drug report not feeling or not caring about anything. Well, this does sound familiar. There's also been an established causal relationship between SSRI use and psychosis and hallucinations. Yes, psychosis and hallucinations. That sounds like many things that happened in my relationship, both of which are known to increase the risk of violence in individuals. According to the review of the FDA's database, 484 drugs were identified as triggers to serious adverse events, significant enough to warrant a case study during the 5-year period from 2004 through to 2009. Of these 484 medications, 31 were identified to have disproportionate association with violence. These 31 drugs make up 78.8% of all classes of violence towards others in the FDA's database and include multiple psychotropic medications, 11 antidepressants, 6 hypnotic and sedatives, 3 ADHD medications, hello Ritalin people, and 1 smoking cessation drug. Well, giving up smoking could be fucking hard. Researchers concluded that violence against others was a genuine and serious adverse drug event, and that of the 484 medications, the drugs that were most consistently and strongly associated with violence were the smoking cessation medication, Chantix, and SSRIs. This list includes 5 SSRI antidepressants. Fluoxetine, Prozac increased aggressive behavior by 10.9 times. Paroxetine, Paxil increased violent behavior by 10.3 times. Fluvoxamine, Luvox, increased violent behavior by 8.4 times. Venlafaxine, which is Effexor, increased violent behavior by 8.3 times. And desvenlafaxine, which is Pristic, increased violent behavior by 7.9 times. While a surprise to the American public, this shouldn't have been a surprise to the drug companies. During the clinical trials of paroxetine, hostility, which was the term to include homicidal idealization, well, that's quite a serious thing to have, and aggression presented in 60 of the 9,219 participants, 0.65%. Hostile acts were documented both while taking the medication and after tapering off. Children with obsessive compulsive disorder taking the medication were most at risk of becoming hostile, with a 17 times higher probability than the rest of those in the clinical study. In a Swedish study published in the PLOS, researchers looked at information on over 850,000 patients prescribed SSRIs in the Swedish Prescribed Drug Register, which is a national database of all dispensed medications. They then compared the violent crimes committed during a 3-year period and compared it to violent crimes committed by the same individuals when not taking the medications. When age was taken into effect, a significant association was apparent between violent crime convictions and SSRI use in patients between the ages of 15 and 24. In one 2001 case, Corey Badsgaard, a 16-year-old who attended Wahluke High School in Washington, was first prescribed Paxil, which caused hallucinations, and then switched to Effexor. He started at a 40 milligram dosage that, over the course of 3 weeks, increased to 300 milligrams. On the first day of that high dose, he woke with a headache and returned to bed. Then he got up, took a rifle to his school, and held 23 classmates hostage. Badsgaard's testimony claims he has no recollection of the event or of his principal convincing him to put the gun down and release the hostages. Like I said, my girlfriend, who was on Suraxat, referred to these incidents as blackouts, where she has no recollection. I had to take her word for that. That she just doesn't remember being an absolute asshole. We have to, don't you? In 2002, the BBC aired the documentary Panorama. Now remember, in 2002, the BBC were good, which focused on paroxetine. The producers received 1,374 emails from viewers, the majority of whom told stories of violence or self-harm while taking the medication, particularly when starting and when increasing the dosage. What's more, in 2009, after investigating connection between SSRIs and violence, the Japanese Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare revised the label warnings on these drugs to read, "There are cases where we cannot rule out a causal relationship of hostility, anxiety and sudden acts of violence with the medication." Medication with a warning label that tells you could commit sudden acts of violence. Is that something you want to put into your body, no matter how boo-hoo you feel? Connection between SSRI and murder. In most cases, the vast majority of people who suffer from mental illness are non-violent. Even those who self-harm are highly unlikely to hurt others. In fact, these individuals are more likely to become victims of violent crimes than the general public. I'm not sure where they've got that information from, because they haven't cited it, but okay. Yet after each mass shooting tragedy, the media fills with psychiatrists who say that the individual didn't seek the help they needed, and that with the proper treatment, the tragedy may have been prevented. But research doesn't support that philosophy. Oh, really? Sounds like there's a narrative being created. In fact, depression in particular doesn't lead to violence, yet since the increase in SSRI antidepressants being widely prescribed, the rise in mass shootings has increased right along with it. Now again, correlation doesn't always prove causation, but this is a particularly an American thing. Got access to guns and their love of mind-bending drugs being peddled to children. Here's some examples. So 1989, Joseph T. Westbecker walked into his former employer, Standard Gravure Corp., and shot 20 workers, killing 9. He had been taking Prozac for a month. The shooting led to a landmark case where the survivors sued the makers of Prozac, Eli Lilly. Westbecker used a semi-automatic Chinese AK-47 style firearm, a 9mm pistol, and a .38 special snub-nose revolver, all of which he purchased legally, passing his background check. They successfully sued Prozac, the makers of Prozac. That was in 1989. In 1995, Gerard Victor was 15 when he was prescribed Paxil. 10 days after starting it, Victor stabbed his grandmother 61 times. 1996, at 18, Kurt Danish murdered his father just 17 days after being prescribed Prozac by his family doctor, who failed to do even one psychological test. During his police confession, Danish told police the medication made him feel odd. I just act differently. I don't have the energy or personality I used to. I spent half the time in a trance. 1997, Luke Woodham stabbed his mother, then travelled to Pearl High School, where he was enrolled, using a .30 to shoot 2 students and wound 6 others. He was stopped by his assistant principal, aka a good guy with a gun. Well, this is a gun website. Who used his own .45 ACP handgun to force Woodham's surrender. Like I said, they've added these details because it's pro-gun, but you know. 1998, 15-year-old Kip Kinkle shot both his parents, then carried a 9mm handgun, a .22 rifle, and a .22 pistol to his first in high school, where he murdered 2 classmates and injured 22 more, all while taking Prozac. 1999, Eric Harris, 17, with Dylan Klebold, killed 12 students, 1 teacher and himself, and wounded 23 others in the Columbine school shooting. You remember Columbine? He had been prescribed Zoloft and then Luvox before he used a 12-gauge shotgun received through a straw purchaser and a 9mm Tech DC-9. 2001, Christopher Pittman, a 12-year-old, was prescribed Zoloft at 12, which caused him to become agitated, jittery, and experience tactile hallucinations. Pittman told his psychologist, Dr. Lynette Atkins, that he heard voices telling him, kill, kill, do it, do it. He took a .410 shotgun and shot his grandparents, then burned their house down. One eventful day. 2001, Andrea Yates drowned all 5 of her children. She was taking Effexor and was suffering from delusions about satanic possession. The murder of her children led Effexor to list homicidal thoughts in medication side effects. Although it's a rare side effect, manifesting in 1 in 1,000 patients, over 19 million prescriptions were written and filled in 2005. That's an estimated 19,000 people suffering from homicidal thoughts because of the medication. Oh dear. 19,000. 2005, 16-year-old Jeff Weiss was taking 60 milligrams a day of Prozac, the highest dosage for adults, when he shot his grandfather's girlfriend, murdered 10 students at Red Lake, Minnesota, and wounded 12 more before shooting himself. He was armed with a .40 caliber pistol and a .22 pistol and a 12-gauge shotgun. Maybe I'll stop reading about the gun thing, because I think only they care about that. 2008, Stephen Kamirtzak was prescribed Prozac, Xanax, and Ambien. Ooh, what a mix. A sleep medication. 3 weeks before walking into Northern Illinois University, killing 6 people and wounding 21 with 3 pistols and a shotgun. Kamierzak, if that's how I'm saying it right, I don't know, had stopped taking the antidepressant because it made him feel like a zombie. 2 weeks after starting Lexapro, Robert Stewart walked into his estranged wife's work in Pine Lake Health and Rehab, and opened fire. He killed 8 elderly patients and wounded 3 others. He doesn't remember the incident. 2012, James Holmes, also known as the Batman movie killer, if you remember that, was taking sertraline when he walked into the showing of The Dark Knight with 2 pistols, an AR-style rifle, and a 12-gauge shotgun, killing 12 people and injuring 70 others. That's quite a rampage. In his personal notebook, which he sent to his psychiatrist the same day as the shooting, shows that as the medication increased his anxiety, he lost his fear of consequences. As the dosage became higher, his thoughts became more obsessive and psychotic. 2013. This just goes on and on. At the time of the Washington Navy Yard shooting, Aaron Alexis was a civilian contractor working in the yard, was prescribed trazodone, a serotonin antagonist and reuptake inhibitor, an SARI, that works much like an SSRI to increase serotonin levels in the brain. He killed 12 people and injured 8 others. So, 2014, Ivan Lopez was a 34-year-old U.S. soldier who shot 15 of his comrades, killing 3 of them. Is based in Fort Hood, Texas. He was undergoing mental health treatment through the Veterans Administration, which is known for overprescribing medication. They have a link to another article backing that up. Apparently, the VA confirmed that Lopez was taking antidepressants. The VA only uses SSRI antidepressants during the time of the shooting and his subsequent suicide. 2015. From the moment it occurred, the Charleston church shooting had been deemed as an act of white supremacy, a race crime against blacks. But 2 years after Dylan Roof shot and killed 9 people and injured another, the court released documents that show it was more mental health than hatred that led to the murders. The documents confirmed he was taking antidepressants. 2016, Arkan Setin, who was just 20 years old, walked into the Cascade Mall where he shot and killed 4 women, one just a teen, and shot 1 man, who later died in hospital. Records show Setin was under the care of a psychiatrist and taking medications for depression and ADHD, including Prozac. And they say the list goes on. And with the implication of patient privacy laws, getting information on medication and mental health diagnosis of people has become harder and harder, even with mounting evidence that there's a connection between SSRI use and violence. Fair enough. In 1996, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, commonly referred to as HIPAA, was set in place. HIPAA represents the US's first attempt to national regulations and use and disclosure of persons' personal health information, or PHI. HIPAA makes it more difficult for medical personnel to increase information regarding the person's medical care, diagnosis, and prescription drugs, including those involved with mental health-related crimes. For example, in the 2008 Virginia Tech shooting, I remember that. That was a Korean guy, yeah. Perpetrator Sung Hui Cho had multiple interactions with the mental health department on campus, some for suicide or ideation, but yet his parents nor authorities were ever notified. I think that's a mistake. University officials stated privacy laws restricted them from sharing the information. It's a tricky one, privacy laws, isn't it, when it comes to this kind of thing? Beyond the necessity for communication prior to these horrific shootings, after the incident, the person's records are often protected, even in situations where the perpetrator dies during the shooting. HIPAA protects their records for 50 years. Well, where have we heard that kind of thing before? Because of this, the American public doesn't know what kind of medications these people are taking and if it may have had an effect on their actions. Just looking at public shootings over the last 5 years, there's a huge list of murderers who are likely on SSRIs. There's a few here. So there's Zephyr Zaver and the SunTrust Bank shooting, Ian David Long and the Thousand Oaks nightclub shooting, Travis Reinking and the Waffle House shooting, Nicholas Cruz and the Parkland, Florida school shooting. Remember Parkland? And Devin Patrick Kelly and the Texas church shooting. Now, there is more to go into that article, but I think I've said enough already. To wrap it up, there's one thing you could say is that predominantly these have been men committing it. And like, what is the percentage of women and men that are on SSRIs and similar forms of medication? And what sort of incidents do women have? Why is it just men doing it? Well, because men are men. Maybe there's another factor in there that makes men want to do these shootings and doesn't affect women in a different way. Or maybe women do different things. Or maybe there's more information. Or then again, this has been written in a pro-gun website, that they're not interested in incidents not involving guns. It is something worth looking into. But the thing is, the whole point of just going through that is that as soon as I got sent that, it just bing. It just made sense to me. I was like, and the first thing I said was, well, fucking of course. Tell me something I didn't know already. Because that's how I feel about it. I just want to wrap it up by saying, have a look into it more in depth, because I am too. It sort of touches me personally. That's why I wanted to do it. Because I've seen it. And I know other people that have seen it. And to think that they just constantly give medication to young people that can make them violent. And this is the only way they solve any problem, is just pumping them full of drugs, because essentially they're all drug peddlers. Says a lot. And think about all other drugs and medications that they just tell you to take and they're fine, and probably aren't. There's a lot of them, because they just seem to ignore these things. Why? So they can perpetuate nonsense. This is why we don't trust them. Okay? There are ways, I'm just very glad I didn't go down the path of medication when I had my anxiety and panic attacks. And I just did it without the aid of drugs. And I'm very grateful for that. It wasn't an overnight success. It was hard work, but it was better. There are better ways to deal with it. When we're just giving drugs as the number one go-to thing, most recreational drugs are taken, and for someone who took a lot of recreational drugs, you take these things to escape. They don't solve the root problem. I think that's one of the things about most drugs, is it's not the root problem. Even when it comes to a headache, what's the root cause of a headache? A great example is a hangover. Well, if you don't want to have a bad banging headache, don't get so fucking drunk. There you go. Solve the root problem already. We have a problem with the way we are fucking with serotonin. And it's not just through drugs. It's through technology too. We are witnessing so many incidents, not just violent incidences, but just instances of massive psychosis and deranged lunatics with mad narcissistic lunatics just all over the internet. This is a problem. We're experiencing a problem with fucking with dopamine and serotonin. Okay? This is the root cause of a lot of bad shit, especially with young people. And it really needs to be addressed. But unfortunately for us, the people who are supposed to address these problems and solve the ills of society are only interested in shitting on us, basically. But anyway, if you did enjoy that, please go over to the website and become a member. You can become a free member or a paid member. It's up to you. If you want to subscribe to whatever medium you're watching or listening to this on, by all means do so. But the website is where I want everyone to congregate because, that's my thing. We want to do direct-to-consumer action around here. We want to cut out the middleman. That's why I just go to the pharmacist. Because if the doctor's just going to sell me drugs, I'll just go straight to the source. I don't need to pay middleman prices and waste my time in a doctor's surgery. I can just go to the pharmacy and say, how do you solve this? Thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. This conversation doesn't end because this ends. Now it's your time to go look into it and explore. And tell me what you've come up with and what you've discovered, because I want to know. Thank you for now.